The world is standing on the edge of a storm tonight. Inside the towering halls of the United Nations, the Security Council is preparing for a vote that could slam Iran with some of the harshest sanctions seen in years. The tension is electric, the stakes are deadly, and the echoes of past conflicts are already shaking global markets and military strategies across the globe. This is not just another diplomatic scuffle. This is a decisive moment that could redraw battle lines in the Middle East and ignite ripples of conflict far beyond. Welcome back to my channel. As Saturday approaches, the council chambers in New York feel more like a war room than a meeting place of diplomats. Intelligence reports whisper of frantic late-night calls between world leaders, of military planners adjusting readiness levels, and of oil traders bracing for a surge that could hit every household across the planet. The vote is more than a piece of paper. It is a loaded trigger, and everyone knows it. For months, satellite images have captured suspicious flashes across Iran's desert testing grounds, missile components being shifted under the cover of night, new radar installations rising like silent sentinels. Western analysts warn that Iran's ballistic missile program has accelerated beyond predictions. Hypersonic test launches, hardened underground silos, and stealth drone prototypes are no longer rumors but documented realities. These technologies don't just threaten a single border. They can reach across continents, carrying payloads that change the calculus of war. Military observers point to the Strait of Hormuz, that narrow choke point where a fifth of the world's oil flows every single day. Iranian Revolutionary Guard patrol boats have been spotted shadowing international tankers with an unnerving frequency. Advanced skimming missiles, capable of punching through even the most sophisticated naval defenses, now sit within striking distance. Every ship captain crossing those waters knows that one political misstep in New York could turn the Persian Gulf into a flashpoint overnight. Inside Iran, hardline factions are already rallying supporters. State television blares defiant messages, showcasing footage of new drones buzzing over rugged mountain ranges, of mobile missile platforms camouflaged against desert sands. The message is unmistakable. Iran will not be cowed, yet behind closed doors there are signs of quiet unease. Economists warn that a fresh wave of sanctions will strangle critical industries, crush currency reserves, and spark internal unrest that could shake the regime itself. Meanwhile, global powers are locking horns. Washington insists that Iran has breached key nuclear and missile limits, pointing to intercepted shipments of advanced centrifuge components and secret enrichment sites buried deep beneath hardened rock. European allies, though weary of confrontation, now admit that the evidence is impossible to ignore. Russia and China, however, accuse the West of weaponizing economic pressure, calling the sanctions a dangerous provocation that could spiral into open conflict. The military balance is shifting in real time. U.S. carrier strike groups patrol the Arabian Sea with heightened alert levels. Israeli intelligence units are on round-the-clock surveillance, tracking every movement inside Iran's aerospace facilities. Across the Gulf states, Patriot missile batteries and newly deployed laser defense systems stand ready to intercept anything that streaks across the night sky. War planners talk of deterrence, but every maneuver, every radar lock, carries the risk of a fatal miscalculation. Economists warn that if sanctions snap back, Iran may retaliate not only with military force, but with cyber warfare. Tehran's cyber units have grown into one of the most aggressive in the world, capable of infiltrating critical infrastructure from power grids to financial systems. A single coordinated cyber attack could freeze banking networks in minutes or cripple energy pipelines that fuel major cities. Experts say the next battlefield might not be in the desert, but inside computer servers thousands of miles away. The human cost of this geopolitical chess match is already surfacing. Ordinary Iranian families brace for soaring food prices and medicine shortages. Across the Middle East, civilians fear that proxy conflicts in Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen will ignite into full-scale wars. Refugee camps, already stretched to the breaking point, prepare for another surge of desperate families fleeing airstrikes and collapsing economies. And yet, despite the looming vote, back-channel negotiations continue. Secret envoys shuttle between capitals, offering last-minute concessions and trade-offs. Some diplomats whisper of a narrow path to delay the sanctions, perhaps a freeze on missile testing or limited inspections. But with every hour that passes, the chances of compromise shrink, and the shadow of confrontation grows longer. This Saturday's decision is more than a diplomatic deadline. It is a test of global resolve. Will the Security Council enforce the rules it once set, or will rival superpowers fracture the system and open the door to a new era of unchecked proliferation? The answer will shape not only the future of Iran but the very architecture of global security. The countdown to Saturday has become a global spectacle. In capitals, from Washington to Moscow, military planners and political analysts are running war games late into the night, trying to predict every possible outcome of the Security Council's decision. Markets tremble with every leak from the negotiations. The air feels thick with the kind of pressure that precedes not just a vote, but a potential flashpoint in history. Across the Middle East, the mood is razor-sharp. In Tel Aviv, intelligence officials pore over satellite feeds and encrypted intercepts, looking for the faintest sign of Iranian retaliation. Israel's Iron Dome and Arrow missile systems have been brought to their highest alert levels, while Air Force squadrons rehearse rapid response strike missions that could reach deep into Iranian territory if provoked. In Riyadh, Saudi generals quietly shift troops and missile batteries closer to the Gulf Coast, fully aware that their oil terminals and refineries would be among the first targets should Tehran lash out. The military technology in play is unlike anything the region has faced before. Iranian hypersonic missile prototypes, sleek, unpredictable, and capable of piercing next-generation air defenses, have changed the strategic equation. Western analysts believe Tehran has successfully miniaturized warheads for these systems, making them faster to deploy and harder to intercept. Alongside these missiles, Iran's fleet of stealth drones equipped with advanced imaging sensors and electronic warfare pods has become a nightmare for opposing forces. A swarm of such drones could overwhelm even the most sophisticated radar arrays, striking targets with precision before defenders have a chance to react. But the battlefield is not limited to the skies. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has invested heavily in electronic warfare and cyber weapons. Recent probes into Western power grids and financial systems have triggered quiet panic inside NATO command centers. One high-ranking cybersecurity expert described Iran's capabilities as a silent arsenal, capable of crippling economies without firing a single shot. The specter of a coordinated cyber strike, launched in retaliation for sanctions, keeps military planners awake at night. Inside Iran, defiance burns hot. State-controlled media floods the airwaves with images of missile parades, soldiers saluting under banners declaring resistance, and scientists unveiling new satellite and radar technologies. Iranian leaders promise severe consequences if the United Nations reimposes sanctions, yet behind these fiery statements economists warn of a looming internal crisis. The country's currency teeters on the brink, and black market exchange rates surge by the hour. Shortages of medicine and essential goods are already squeezing ordinary families, fueling quiet discontent that could erupt into protests if sanctions bite deep enough. On the diplomatic front, the chess match grows more frantic. The United States, backed by key European allies, insists that Iran has crossed multiple red lines, expanding uranium enrichment, testing long-range missile systems, and covertly supplying advanced weaponry to proxy militias in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. U.S. diplomats argue that failure to act now will embolden other nations to flout international agreements, triggering a cascade of nuclear ambitions across volatile regions. Russia and China, meanwhile, accuse Washington of using the Security Council as a weapon to maintain global dominance. They argue that punishing Iran will only fuel instability, drive Tehran closer to Moscow and Beijing, and risk igniting a regional war. Behind closed doors, Russian envoys push for a watered-down resolution that delays sanctions in exchange for limited inspections, while Chinese diplomats quietly lobby for an economic framework that would allow their companies to keep investing in Iranian oil and infrastructure. Every hour brings new rumors of secret phone calls between presidents of last-minute compromises that might avert disaster, of backroom deals involving arms sales and energy contracts. Yet, the clock ticks mercilessly toward Saturday, and the odds of a breakthrough grow thinner with every passing minute. Meanwhile, U.S. and allied forces in the region brace for immediate fallout. Navy destroyers patrol the Strait of Hormuz with live-fire protocols in place. Carrier strike groups maintain constant air patrols, ready to intercept any missile launch or swarm attack. F-35 fighter jets rotate through forward bases in Qatar and the UAE, engines humming, weapons loaded. Special operations teams quietly move into undisclosed locations, prepared for rapid response missions should Iranian proxies target American assets or regional partners. The economic stakes are equally severe. Energy analysts warn that even a limited confrontation could send global oil prices soaring overnight, shattering fragile economies from Europe to Asia. Shipping companies already report higher insurance premiums for vessels crossing the Gulf, while traders scramble to secure alternative supply routes through the Red Sea and Suez Canal. A single missile strike on a tanker or refinery could unleash a chain reaction of market chaos, driving up fuel costs and sparking unrest in countries far from the battlefield. And through it all, ordinary people watch in dread. Families in Iran wonder how they will buy bread or medicine if the currency collapses. Citizens in Gulf states stockpile food and fuel, fearful that conflict could choke vital shipping lanes. Across Europe and the United States, veterans of past Middle Eastern wars quietly pray that history is not about to repeat itself on an even more dangerous scale. As Saturday approaches, the world waits holding its breath, watching the UN chambers where diplomats trade icy stares and carefully crafted words. One vote could trigger an avalanche of consequences: military escalations, cyber attacks, economic shocks, and humanitarian crises. The decision will not just punish a government, it will send shockwaves through alliances, redraw strategies, and test the fragile architecture of global peace. Global markets teeter on the edge. Oil futures spike with every rumor of a missile movement in the Gulf. Airlines reroute flights to avoid contested airspace. Shipping companies halt tankers rather than risk a sudden blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, where a single missile strike could trap billions of dollars worth of cargo. Economists warn that even a brief disruption in oil exports could trigger a worldwide recession, driving up fuel prices, collapsing fragile currencies, and sparking unrest in countries already grappling with inflation. In Washington, policymakers debate contingency plans. Should sanctions be enforced with a naval blockade? How far should cyber counterattacks go if Iranian hackers strike first? Pentagon war rooms hum with activity, updating targeting data and running simulations of worst-case scenarios. In Moscow and Beijing, leaders weigh their next moves, calculating how much they can gain or lose if the crisis escalates. Every capital knows that one miscalculation could ignite a conflict too vast to contain. As the Security Council prepares to convene, the world watches the Great Chamber, where the